Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Entrepreneurial Finance, due diligence of a business idea. What is the due diligence and when is the due diligence being done? Actually, it's part of the process of obtaining venture capital again. It's especially part of the so-called detailed analysis phase. So when the VC is convinced that he wants to do the investment, when he saw you presenting your venture, when he gave you a letter of intent that he's going to, or he's intending to invest in your company, he's doing a so-called detailed analysis phase or due diligence. He looks at your company in very detail. An example is Spotify. When the Founders Fund invested into Spotify, they basically looked at everything Spotify had to offer. And this is very typical. Every VC does that. So what do the VCs look at? Well, the first thing they look at is they do this so-called technical due diligence. So they look at the SWOT profile of your company. Are there any strength, weakness, opportunities, threats, further threats to what they want to invest in? So-called technical due diligence. This is basically accompanied by the so-called economic due diligence, because then they do their own projections of your business model, of your assumptions, and look into how you could potentially make money, look at your team and so on. Try to understand whether your company is economically sound, at least to some extent. You can look at that. You do legal due diligence. You look at all the contract the company has signed so far, and you also look at the products and the underlying patents. So you might make a patent analysis at that point of time. And the legal due diligence is normally quite costly because you need experts to do that. In most cases, legal due diligence is totally fine. It's probably 99% of the cases. Only in 1% legal due diligence brings up some problems, and then the VC is not going to invest. But basically they have to do that, or they need to do that, yes. Environmental due diligence is the question, well, is there a chance to get an exit? What is the environment saying right now? What is the projections for the future? What's the environment of the company? Are there any kind of like legal issues associated to your company that you can't go to the stock market and so on? This is what you do in the environmental due diligence. Tax due diligence, you always look whether the taxes have been paid, if there are tax obligations, whether the tax structure is fine and so on, because they do not want to go into the position that they are liable or they have liabilities towards the tax authorities. And the last one, most important one, is probably financial due diligence, where you look at the valuation and whether you look at securing your investment. So thinking about those term sheet parts which can accompany your valuation to make this a real financially sound investment. So this is what a VC normally does in his process, and this process can take some time, 1 to up to 3 months, until VCs really looked at every part of your company. Main question for you, by the way, should you let the VC do that exclusively, or should you have more than one VC doing that in the company at the same time? VCs will always argue with you that they want an exclusive right to do due diligence, because this is what you can see is quite a costly thing. The question is whether you want that, because it puts you in a position only dealing with one, and you cannot do any kind of like auction mechanism to let VCs bid for your investment. But that's probably a different question, aside from the real due diligence which we talked about.